What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome back to the Angry Birds Fans Hangout, and I'm your host, Hydro. It's Super Bowl week, Eagles versus Chiefs. That's right, it's almost here. It feels like it's been a minute, especially with that bye week. Not a whole lot to talk about. Teams just prepping, getting ready for this game. Now they're in Arizona doing Super Bowl week, doing media days and stuff. It started yesterday. So one thing I noticed from seeing the team is that they're locked in. They're locked in. I've listened to some of their interviews. I mean, they're having fun, but they're locked in. That's one thing I wanted to see how the players were reacting there at media day. But from what I've seen, I think we're in pretty good hands with them. I think they're on a mission. And I think the one goal they have in mind right now is to win the Super Bowl, and that is great. But today, I'm not going to do a pre-game matchup yet. I want to wait until later on in this week as we get closer to the game because I just want to make sure there have been no changes to the roster, the injury, any injury updates, once the injury chart comes out, I want to see if there are any new players on there, or especially one player. But I think so far he's going to play as Avonte Maddox, but I just want to see what his status is, especially for him, because we're definitely going to need him going up against one of the best tight ends in the NFL. But I'll discuss that later. One question I've been getting asked a lot, especially since this team has made it this far into playing in a Super Bowl game, is which team is better? Is it the 2017 Eagles or is it the 2022 Eagles? That's a very good question because when I did my doing covering the team during the preseason, I noticed there were a lot of similarities between this team and the 2017 team. And now that we're here, I kind of, and I've been getting asked this question, so I'm gonna do a little deep dive into both teams, and I'm gonna give you my opinion. Everybody has their opinion, and your opinion is gonna differ from mine, but that's okay. This is an opinionated discussion on which team is better. If you had to ask me right now which team is better, I would say 2017 because they won the Super Bowl. If this team goes out there, the 2022 team wins the Super Bowl, then I would say it's 2022 because, I mean, it's all about victories, right? You can have the best team in team franchise history, but if you don't win the big game, you're not going to be recognized as that. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I'm pretty sure there's other teams from other franchises that won their Super Bowls multiple times, and that the last team they had won it probably wasn't better than any of the previous teams, but it's always the latest team that wins it gets recognized. But we're going to go into a little deep dive. So let's start with how the 2017 team is similar, or how the similar in ways of how the teams were constructed. So we look at the 2017 team. I would even go back with these players. I would even go back to the 2005 Eagles Super Bowl team. We got free agent wide receiver acquisitions in those teams from 2005, 2017, and 2022. So of course, in 2005, everybody knows we got Terrell Owens that came to our team during that season. They knew we had the defense, we had the offense. We were just missing that one piece to get us over that hurdle of winning an NFC championship and going to the Super Bowl. And Terrell Owens was that player. So all the way up from that 2005 season all the way up till, or 2004, 2005 season, sorry, all the way up to now, I would have said Terrell Owens was our best free agent acquisition, right? Because he did boost that team, and just with him alone, he made the offense better. Now we go to 2017, the 2017 team, Alshon Jeffries was acquired in the offseason. He was not the caliber type receiver that Terrell Owens was or AJ Brown, but he came into that offense and definitely made it better. And then in 2022, we have AJ Brown that we got during the draft from a free agent, a free agent acquisition using draft. We got him onto the team, and he's definitely elevated our offense and made it better. So those are how those three teams are similar, and just those ways. Those three teams are similar in that way. But with the 2017 2022 Eagles, I would say Alshon Jeffries and AJ Brown, that is probably the most significant similarity we have between those two teams, in that we acquired a top receiver to help our offense out. Now, we also got Torrey Smith during the offseason. I would compare him more to, he's like he's a Quez Watkins type receiver on that offense. But as far as similarities and acquisitions, I would say he's like Zach Pascal. Like, we got Zach Pascal this offseason to come to this team, and he's helped out in his own special ways. But Torrey Smith probably made more of an impact than Zach Pascal did coming in as free agent, because he definitely was targeted a lot more, and he produced more for that offense. Now, one of the biggest, turned out to be the biggest free agent acquisition of 2017 was Nick Foles. At the time when we got him, okay, we got Nick back. He's going to be a backup quarterback, backing up Carson Wentz. And I can't really say compare him to I can't compare him to Gardner Minshew, because we already had Gardner Minshew since last season. But those are not similarities, but I would just say I will compare that to that. But Nick Foles turned out to be probably the best free agent acquisition next to Alshon Jeffries in 2017 to help us win that Super Bowl, because without Nick Foles, we probably would not have won that Super Bowl. All right, so another one is we did get Patrick Robinson, and I can compare that to almost a CJ Gardner-Johnson acquisition. Patrick Johnson did have his best year that year. He's a traditional, he's a slot cornerback. CJ can play slot. He has played slot this season for us, especially with the Devontae Maddox injury. So I kind of compared those two. Then we got LeGarrette Blount. We didn't get any running backs during the offseason for 2022. We pretty much have the same stable of running backs that we had last season, but LeGarrette Blount was a big impact free agent in our running game in 2017. And we'll get back later into that. And then one person that we did get that can compare kind of to our our James Bradbury pickup is Ronald Darby. We got Ronald Darby, and he was probably our best cornerback that season. I ain't gonna say probably, but he was our best cornerback. Jalen Mills, he was a decent cornerback, but he was not a Ronald Darby. Like, Ronald Darby was way better than Jalen Mills. So I would say James Bradbury and Ronald Darby, in comparison wise to how the teams are similar, they acquired Ronald Darby the same way this season we acquired James Bradbury, that made tremendous impacts on our team and our defense. And so those are kind of where the uh well let's well I can't really say because we didn't get any defensive ends, but we did draft Derek Barnett that year. I mean, he's a decent player. I mean, he hasn't turned out to what we wanted him to be. He's not doing what he hasn't done what Josh Sweat has done this season, but he did have a tremendous impact on that season, and especially in the Super Bowl. I mean, he recovered the fumble caused by Brandon Graham. I mean, he wasn't the best, but I mean, we got him in the draft. That's probably our biggest uh, draft acquisition. And then, of course, Rasul Douglas. I mean, at that time, he wasn't as. I mean, he was good to come in a backup role, but he wasn't the type of cornerback he is today. He just didn't have the experience back then. But he did contribute in that defense and coming in for any injuries that we had that year. So those are some of the similarities between this, like building these two teams. So now let's get into. Now I'm gonna give you my opinion on who's better. I'm gonna go position wise for offense and on defense, and I'll let you know who I thought was better or who I think is better, and then after I do the positions, then I'm gonna do overall team. Just give you my opinion on which team is better overall. We'll start with the quarterbacks, right? So 2017 we had Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, and 2022 we have Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew. Now, if I had to compare Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, I would say they are both having like similar MVP seasons. They are both MVP candidates. They did a great job in leading their team to the records that they had. I mean, without Carson Wentz, I don't think the 2017 team would have been who they were up until the point he got injured. So when he got injured during that Rams game, he was done for the season. Jalen Hurts got injured, Chicago Bears, but he is still here and he is still going to play in the Super Bowl. So that's probably the biggest difference right now between those two guys. I would say that Jalen Hurts has probably made more of an impact on his team, and I only say that because of his leadership. He probably has better leadership traits than Carson Wentz had back then. So I would say Jalen Hurts. I would probably say they're even in like talent wise. I mean, Carson Wentz might be a little bit better with in passing than Jalen Hurts, but as far as propelling this team to where they're at, Jalen Hurts definitely is better than Carson Wentz, in my opinion. Now, if we take the whole quarterback group, like the whole quarterback room with Carson Wentz, Nick Foles, Jalen Hurts, and Gardner Minshew, I would give the 2017 team the edge in that. And the only reason why, because Nick Foles won the Super Bowl for our team as a backup quarterback. Gardner Minshew, I doubt. If Gardner Minshew was to play in this Super Bowl, I doubt he will win this game for us. Jalen Hurts can win this game for us, but Gardner Minshew, that would be a no. So I would give it to the quarterback room. But if I had to go starter for starter, Jalen Hurts, quarterback room 2017 definitely has the edge on that because of Nick Foles. He's a legend in Philly. So let's go to running backs. And this is a hard one for me because I liked both running back rooms on each team because they complemented each other. The biggest advantage the 2017 team had was they had LeGarrette Blount, who is a power back. Like he could do both. He could run power and he could, he was elusive at the same time. So the 2017 team had LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, and Corey Clement. The 2022, of course, we have Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott. The only edge I would give the 2017 team is in power running. But we have Jalen Hurts that is part of our running game. So we have 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, or something like that. We're doing a quarterback sneak that can't be stopped 92% all the time, right? That's one thing I could say that the 2017 team really didn't have. Like, if there's a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, I mean, Doug Peterson was notorious for going for it on 4th down, just like Nick Sirianni is. But I would have to give the 2022 team the advantage over 2017 team just because they got the most touchdowns in the NFL this season record. Like, and they just are, they average 154 yards rushing. I mean, that team did average over 100 yards, but it was nothing like the way this team is running the ball. It's just totally different. So I have to go with 2022. All right, so wide receivers. So 2017 had Alshon Jeffrey, had Torrey Smith, and Nelson Agholor. This is easy. I mean, everybody knows who has a better receiving core, right? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Quez Watkins are our receivers right now. Just A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith alone beats out the 2017. I don't even have to put Quez Watkins in there. I would say that Nelson Agholor is better than Quez Watkins. Nelson Agholor, I mean, they're both fast. They both don't have great hands, but I'll give better hands to Nelson Agholor, even though towards late in his, but we're talking 2017. 2017 was catching everything. So he had great hands that year. Like, Nelson Agholor was on this team, oh my God. I think we'll be definitely unstoppable. And we probably wouldn't have lost any games, honestly, well, if Jalen Hurts doesn't get hurt. But I have to give it to 2022. And I'm pretty sure majority of people will agree with me on that one. I mean, 2,000-yard receivers. I mean, what can you say? All right, tight ends. This is also another difficult one because, 2017 had Zach Ertz, Brent Celek, Trey Burton. This season, 2022, we got Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll, and Grant Calcaterra. You can't say nothing about Zach Ertz. I mean, he led the receivers in receiving, in catches and in yardage, and catches. But Dallas Goedert, he don't have better hands than Zach Ertz, but he's way better at running the ball than Zach Ertz. Like, Zach Ertz, like I said before, like, will catch the ball and that's it. Where he caught the ball, if somebody just tapped him with a pinky, he was going down. He was horrible at yards after catch. But Dallas Goedert is great for catching the ball and getting yards. Like, he's going to run you over like a Mack truck. Like, he turns into a fullback once he catches the ball. Like, he's a tight end, catches the ball, turns into a fullback. Like, you better be ready to get ran over or take a hit if you're trying to tackle Dallas Goedert. But if I had to go from the whole tight end room in 2017 versus our tight end room in 2022, I had to give it to 2017 because Brent Celek is also, even though he was at the end of his career that year, he was also a great tight end for Philadelphia throughout his time here. And none of those backups we have now can compare to Brent Celek. And plus, Trey Burton, man, he threw a touchdown pass using the Philly special. Until one of these backups on this tight end, in this tight end room, does it for 2022, does something like that, that tight end room in 2017 will always probably be the best tight end room we had. So, well, we'll wait. Well, for right now, we gotta wait and see what happens in the Super Bowl game. Maybe those guys come out and do something special. All right, offensive line. We have Vaitai, who at the time we also had Jason Peters, but Jason Peters got hurt. Vaitai came in, replaced him. We have Winooski. Of course, Jason Kelce was still here. Brandon Brooks, one of the best guards ever, and Lane Johnson. So it's really only like we have Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, and Sam Malu are the only three different players on here. Man, both great offensive lines, but the way this offensive line is dominating this year is, man, it's historic. Like, I haven't seen the offensive line dominate games the way this 2022 line has been doing it this season. The 2017 team did great, but to me, they weren't as dominant as this line. They were good, but they weren't dominant. And then Jason Peters, of course, he was not at the end of his career then, but you couldn't tell because he was still getting hurt. But Vaitai came in and he did a great job in replacing him. So I had to give it a 2022. These guys are just, Jordan Mailata, man, it's great. Like, he's definitely better to me than Vaitai is. Jason Peters, not yet, but he'll get there. I think keep working on him, and as long as he keeps improving, he'll be better. He'll have a better career than Jason Peters in my eye. Landon Dickerson is better than Wisniewski. But I just said Malu, but they're not better than Brandon Brooks. But just because of that, I had to give it 2022. All right. So I think I covered everything on offense, covered the quarterbacks, the receivers, tight ends, and the line. So, all right, let's go defense. We're going to start with the defensive line. The defensive line in 2017 was great, and 2022 is showing greatness also. So 2017, we have Brandon Graham, who's still here, Fletcher Cox still here, but we had Jernigan. And I forgot to mention that we picked up Jernigan too in free agency. Vinny Curry. Oh, Chris Long. I forgot to mention Chris Long. We picked him up in the trade too. And I will compare Chris Long is similar to Hassan Reddick in my view. I would say Hassan Reddick is better right now than what Chris Long was, but Chris Long did make a difference on that defensive line that year. Derek Barnett, who we got in the draft, and Bo Allen. Bo Allen was decent. So now we go 2022. We got Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Linval Joseph, and Ndamukong Suh, and Jordan Davis. Man, just read those names, just say, okay, 2022, man. But this group almost set an NFL record in sacks, the whole NFL record in sacks. They already beat the team record. They still have a chance of setting the sack record in this game. If they get 4, they tie. I think they get 4, they tie. If they get 5, they break it. The only thing I could say about the 2017 team, the defensive line was better against the run because I think we were top 5 rushing defense that season. This team was not great, but I think it's more because of defensive schemes because Schwartz was more about stopping the run, bringing in the extra safety in the box. He would bring in Malcolm Jenkins down there to help stop the run, cover tight ends. But, Jonathan Gannon is different. Jonathan Gannon plays, more about not letting people beat you over the top. So he doesn't stack the box as much. Now he runs a bear front a lot now, but since we've got Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, with those two guys coming in, I think we probably would have been a top 5 rush defense if they would have been here at the beginning of the season. But they came through midway, so that kind of, that's why stats are deceiving a little bit. But I'll have to give it to the 2022 team just for the simple fact they get at the quarterback. They're a game changer. Still, you got Brandon Graham on here who was on the Super Bowl team in 2017, still doing his thing. And we'll see how they play in this Super Bowl. But right now, I have to give it 2022. If they go in there and they put pressure on Mahomes, cause fumbles and stuff, they're definitely going to be over. Because, I mean, they really only got to Brady like one time, but it was a game-changing play by Brandon Graham. He caused the fumble that kind of, changed the momentum of the game and let us, kind of really was a game-winning, game changer in a way. So, let's go to linebackers. Linebackers, we got Jordan Hicks, but he got injured. He didn't play in the Super Bowl. Then Nigel Bradham came in for him and Michael Kendricks. And now we had TJ Edwards and Kaiser White. I mean, with Jordan Hicks and Michael Kendricks out there, I would say the 2017 is better than the 2022. But with Nigel Bradham being out there, and we have a Kobe Dean on that roster, I think 2022 is better just because of Nakobe Dean. I think because Nakobe Dean can come in there and fill in for these guys. I think he will play better than he'll play better than Nigel Bradham or Kendricks, honestly. But it's just hard because linebackers always been our weakest spot on the defense. It was the weakest spot in 2017. In my opinion, it's still the weakest spot, even though these guys are playing better, but it's still the weak. So we got so much talent on this defense that the linebacker position is the weakest spot still. But I'll have to give 2022, I have to give the linebacking core to the 2022 team because they actually have done better in coverage than 2017. They're making more tackles. They're not allowing, quarterbacks or, receiver or running backs to get a lot of, yards after catch against us. I mean, they're not great against the run still, but they're still better to me than 2017 team. All right, let's go to cornerbacks. I'm just going to say it because I have to discuss it for you. But we have Ronald Darby, Jalen Mills, and Patrick Robinson. Here we have Darius Slay, James Bradbury, and Avonte Maddox. 2022, hands down. Bradbury and Slay are top 5 in my eyes cornerbacks in this league. Even though Slay has played a little bit down late in the season, but in the playoffs he's done better. So he's kind of come back to his rare form. But Jalen Mills was nowhere close to these guys. Ronald Darby, not up on their level. And Patrick Robinson is not better than Avonte Maddox in my eyes. But I'll have to give the advantage to 2022 because their coverages allows our defensive line more time to get to the quarterback. So they complement each other. All right, safeties. All right, Malcolm Jenkins, Ronnie McLeod, and Corey Graham. And 2022 is C.J. Garner-Johnson, Marcus Epps, and Reed Blankenship. This is another tough one. The safeties, and like I said, the rushing defense in 2017 had to be attributed a lot with the safeties coming down the box, doing their jobs and tackling. I think they're better tacklers in 2017 than we have in 2022. I mean, even though Marcus Epps and Reed Blankenship, man, those guys can hit, but Malcolm Jenkins could hit. I mean, Roddy McLeod, he could hit. The 2022 safeties are better coverage safeties than 2017. I mean, I would say they're even in a way just because one was better in one area and one was better than the other. But man, this is a hard one for me. I didn't think it's gonna be this hard for me to pick. Because CJ led the league in interceptions at one point this season until he got hurt. I mean, Marcus Epps is decent. Like I said, I mean, he had that missed tackle against McCaffrey in the divisional playoff game. I mean, the NFC Championship, which I think like Ronnie McLeod would have made or Malcolm Jenkins probably would have made that tackle, but you just never know. I mean, things happen. But I'll have to go with the 2022 team. I think they're a better coverage team than the 2017. I mean, the 2017 team did get lit up by Tom Brady, but this is going to be a good test for this secondary and our defense with Patrick Mahomes. So we'll see how they fare against Patrick Mahomes. Because they're going to attack the middle a lot, but we'll see if, they can keep Patrick Mahomes from getting big plays. But I'll have to go 2022 right now. So let's go into, I'm not even going to go into special teams because, Jake Elliott, he's still here. So he's still kicking the way he's been kicking in 2017. So really, nothing changed for him. So I can't really say who I give the advantage to on there. With Siposs, as punters, Donnie Jones is definitely better than Siposs. but it was not that big of a gap, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, coaching. Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, Jim Schwartz, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, and Jonathan Gannon. Honestly, I don't think either coaching staff is better than the other. I will give the 2017 team probably a little bit more advantage because Frank Reich was a good offensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz was not a great defensive coordinator, but him and Jonathan Gannon are not that different. They like to stick to their schemes. They don't like to adjust a lot. I think Jonathan Gannon actually adjusts more than Jim Schwartz does. I think if Jonathan Gannon sees something's not working on defense, he will adjust, especially in the second half. He's more of a second half adjuster, way better than Jim Schwartz, because Jim Schwartz would come out still doing the same thing he was doing in the second half, even if it wasn't working. But I would say it's even. I just want to throw coaching in there because that is an important part. It almost got like the saying, Nick Sirianni's a more outgoing personality than Doug Peterson. He's more hype. I think he's more of a player's coach, but Doug Peterson was also a player's coach. So they're similar in that way to me. Shane Steichen is, him and Frank Reich, I don't think there's a lot of difference. Shane Steichen is, I don't know. He knows how to, scheme an offensive plan against a defense. So now as far as team-wise, who would I say is the better team, like, overall? So, if you heard my comparison from position by position, I'll probably pick 2022 more. But let's see how these two compared as far as, like, offense and defense and stats. So, the 2017 team on offense, you'll be surprised at some of these stats. They only had offense in 2022 had a total of 6,614 yards. 2017 team only had 5,852. The defense allowed 5,125 yards, and on 2022, and the 2017 defense allowed 4,904 yards. So it's not a big gap between there. So rushing, the 2022 team was at 2,509, and the 2017 team had 2,115. The 2022 team allowed 2,068 yards, while the defense only allowed 1,267. So that's almost that allowed almost 700 more yards than a 2017 team. But And this is where I was surprised that in passing, the 2022 team had 4,364 yards, where the 2017 team only had 3,967. That surprised me right there. Because to me, I thought the 2017 team was more of a passing team than the 2022 team. The 2022 team is more of a balanced team, I would say, when it comes to running and passing than the 2017 team was. I always felt like the 2017 team was more of a passing team. So, but that's why those stats kind of surprised me in a way. So that kind of lets you know like what kind of quarterback, Jalen Hurts is. And then the 2022 team allowed only 3,000 yards passing, and the 2017 team allowed almost like 3,700 yards passing. Of course, sacks, the 2022 team had 70, and then the 2017 team only had 38. So they almost had double the sacks of what the 2017 team had on defense. And so as far as touchdowns, the 2022 team had 59 and the 2017 team had 49. And they only allowed the 2017 team, it's starting to look better on defense because they only allowed 33 while the 2022 team allowed 40. So it's like they're starting to look a little bit better now, the defense, than the defense now, which is kind of surprising. And the 2022 team on offense has 32 rushing touchdowns, and the 2017 team only had 9. And I think currently with the playoffs, we're at 39. So we have the most in NFL history in rushing right now. And in passing, 2022 team had 25, while the 2017 team had 38. So, and they had more defensive touchdowns. They have 5, and I think this defense only had 2. So to me, it's like the offense to 2022 is better than the offense in 2017, and the defense in 2017 is better than the defense in 2022, which is kind of surprising, especially with all the sacks. But I think, like I said, those rushing stats kind of obscure the stats, the yardage and everything that this defense gave up. But as you can see, in team comparison wise, I would say I would have to give it to 2022. I think they put more the defense, even though they don't have they'll stop the run as good as 2017 team. They're number 1 pass defense in the NFL. You can't really pass against us or go deep. We don't allow we allow the least amount of big plays in the NFL this season. And in 2017, we allowed a few, especially in the Super Bowl. We allowed a few. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 2022 team plays and the defense plays in this Super Bowl. See if they, because Patrick Mahomes he's a big play quarterback. So let's see how they defend against him or prevent him from making any big plays down the field. Like after doing this now, I was like, maybe I should have waited to after the Super Bowl because these two teams are very similar. I mean, you can see why the 2022 team made it to the Super Bowl, just like the 2017 team, because the rosters are almost similar. I mean, the stats are almost similar. I mean, 2022 team has more advantages than the 2017 team on offense, and the 2017 team played better on defense for some reason. But like I said, I think it's just coaching wise and scheme wise. Like Schwartz was just a better he was just a better run, defensive coach than Jonathan Gannon is. It's just the way they run their defenses that makes it this way. Can't say one is better than the other because look, we're both at the same. They made it to the same goal that they had. They made it to the Super Bowl. And so the only difference right now between these two teams, like I said, if right now I would pick the 2017 team because they won the Super Bowl. The 2022 team is better, but they have to win the Super Bowl in my eyes. Because if they don't win the Super Bowl, only thing I can say, yeah, the 2022 team was better than 2017 team, but 2017 team brought home the trophy. So I just can't say, I just can't really say the 2022 team is better if they don't win the Super Bowl. I just can't. Are they better? Yes. After looking at everything and doing the comparisons, talent wise, player wise, like I went down, each position, like player wise, they're better than the 2017 team. Maybe at a couple positions they're not, but overall they are. So they should be able to, bring home a trophy with the talent that we have on this team. So let me know what you think. Which team do you think is better? Do you think the 2017 team is better or the 2022 team is better? Just let me know your opinions. Like I said, you can hit me up at UMCIE on Twitter. Let me know, hey, I got the 2017 Super Bowl team, or I got the 2017 Eagles, or I got the 2022 Eagles. Or you can hit me up on Facebook at Angry Birds Fans Hangout. But Super Bowl week, I'm kind of like, I'm anxious, but I'm kind of not, because I know after this, the season's over. There's not gonna be a whole bunch of football to talk about, but this has been a great season. I can't say, this is the best season we've had in Eagles history. I mean, I know we've had a lot of great seasons in the past, but of course, you're always going to remember the most recent one, especially if it was a great season. So I just can't wait to see the team play in the Super Bowl. Hopefully, they play the way they've been playing all season and they bring us home the trophy, and we close out this season with what they win and a Super Bowl victory to talk about for years to come. And hopefully, this is the beginning. They talk about having a dynasty out here, that the Eagles could be a dynasty, especially with the draft picks we have. But I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard, especially after winning a Super Bowl, trying to keep the same players or bring in same talent to replace those players. So we just have to see how things work out in the offseason. But other than that, I just want to thank everybody who listens, who follows me or subscribe to the podcast. Like, feel free, if you're listening to it on Anchor, you can send me a message. I will put a question on there. You can answer the question and reply back to me. I can see your responses. You can also leave me a voice message if you want, or you can leave a comment if you listen to it on Anchor or Spotify. So other than that, I'll be giving a pregame matchup between both teams probably on Friday. I want to see what the injury report has until then before I could, do my matchup. So be on the lookout for that. So look forward to hearing y'all responses to this episode. Until then, fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds.